everyone, and welcome to the fourth video of the series. In the last three videos, we have defined our endpoints and created the controllers for them, but we haven't actually inserted the business logic into the controllers. So in this video, we're going to do that and have ourselves an actually working API. But before that, we're just going to create a custom error handling middleware. And as you can see right now, we do not have an error handling middleware in our application, and what I'm going to show you is probably one of the best ways to handle Node.js errors in a centralized and concise way. So let's just go ahead and create a new folder called middlewares. So middlewares, and inside that I'm going to create a new file called error handler.js, and what we're basically doing is building on top of the JavaScript's native error object. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and write the code, and then I'll be back with the explanation and I'll tell you what exactly is going on. So what I'm going to do is create a function called app error, and this function is going to take in a couple of parameters, and the first one is going to be name, the second one is going to be status code, a description, and also an boolean, which is operational. So inside this, I'm gonna use the error object and call to this keyword here points to the function that we're in. So after that, again, I'm gonna call this method capture stack trace and give it this again. And then I'm just going to define a couple of properties inside this function. And as you know, JavaScript functions are basically first-class citizens or first-class objects, so they can be passed into other functions. They can have their own properties, and that's exactly what I'm going to do here. I'm going to say this dot name is equal to name, this dot status code is equal to status code, and so on. Is operational is equal to is operational. So, and before we go any further, let me just give a little bit of explanation about this operational. So this is operational parameter is a boolean, and in programming in general and in Node.js we have two types of errors. So one is an operational error and the other one is a programming error. So it's an operational error is an error that we can basically predict. For example, uh, if a user just gives us the wrong credentials, or if a user sends a bad request. So these are the errors that we can predict, and the operational error is telling us that the program itself and the code doesn't contain any bugs and nothing is wrong with that, but there's the problem is somewhere else. But a programming error is telling us that something is wrong with the code itself. So for example, if I'm using an undefined or nullish value or something like that. So let's just go ahead and continue with writing our app error. So what I'm gonna do is say app error dot prototype is equal to object. I'm gonna call the create method. It's gonna be error prototype. All right, and after that it's gonna be app error dot prototype dot constructor. If I split correctly, it's going to be equal to app error. And after that, we're done with the app error, so I'm just gonna create our next function. The next function is going to be an error handler function. So error handler, it's going to take in four parameters. The first one is error, the next one is request, res, and the next function. So what I'm gonna do here is define a couple of variables using the const. So let's say name is equal to error dot name, and if that's not the case and that's not available, we're going to use this value, which is internal server error. And what this operator is basically telling us is It's telling the JavaScript to look for the name property in this object, and if that's not available, set the value of this variable to the value on the right hand side, which is this one. So I'm gonna define the rest of the properties. Status code is equal to so lastly, we're just going to return response. The status code is going to be status code that we have defined here, and going to return a JSON object containing all of these properties. Alright, so lastly, I'm just going to export these two functions. Module.export is equal to error handler and app error. So next thing we should do is after all of our statements and right before app.listen, I'm just gonna use this middleware, so the error handler that we've just defined. So what we're basically doing here, you can write this with the ESC class, but I prefer to write it this way. So we're basically attaching the stack trace and the error stack to this app function, and we're defining all of these properties into it so we can have them and use them. And then we're saying that we want to use this like an ES6 class, so that's why we are defining this constructor property here. And I've explained this error handler before, so let's just go ahead and test our new error handler. So I'm just gonna go to users controller, and inside the first one, which is get all, I'm gonna define a try catch block, and inside this I'm just gonna throw a really silly error. So let's say const user. So let's mimic if there's no user inside our database. So I'm gonna say, so let's say this is a result of calling to our database and fetching a user, and the final result is false. So I'm gonna say if there is no user, you should throw new app error, and so this is going to be a bad request. The set is going to be 400, and description is going to be user, I'm sorry, let's just say wrong credentials or something like that. And lastly is operational, is going to be true. And then let's just say, for the sake of making this example more realistic, let's just return something, and I'm gonna say return res dot not return, actually let's just say res dot json, and say message. And what's happening here? All right, let me just format this. This line won't be reached. So since we are throwing an error here, this line will never be reached. And so let's just say, and then inside our catch block, I'm gonna call the next function and pass it the error. So we're all set. Let me just use this really cool extension, Thunder Client, that allows us to send HTTP requests. So I'm gonna create a new request. It's gonna be a get, and let's say HTTP and localhost. Oh, we have it right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and send this request, and as you can see, we have a bad request. Status code is 400 and other properties. So this is one of the best ways to handle errors in Node.js. You can continue and build on top of this to make it even better, but I'm just gonna wrap things around right here, and I'll see you in the next video.